My name is Audrey Walker, and at 32 years old, I never imagined my own sister would cut me out of the biggest day of her life. Abigail and I shared everything growing up, from clothes to secrets to dreams about our future weddings. When she got engaged to Harrison, I was genuinely thrilled for her. Until the planning started and I noticed my calls going straight to voicemail. Then came the family dinner where my mother casually announced, "It will just be a small wedding," her eyes avoiding mine as she spoke. Before I tell you how I ended up watching my sister's dream wedding crumble from across the ocean, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about family betrayal and sweet, sweet karma. Growing up, Abigail and I were inseparable, just 2 years apart. We shared a bedroom with walls covered in boy band posters and string lights. Our matching twin beds pushed against opposite walls became the stages for our late-night conversations. We would stay up whispering about school crushes, family secrets, and our dreams for the future long after our parents thought we were asleep. I still remember how Abigail would defend me against school bullies despite being younger. In 3rd grade, when Lisa Thompson made fun of my braces, Abigail marched right up to her at recess and informed her that only people with ugly hearts make fun of other people's smiles. That was my sister, fiercely loyal and unafraid to speak her mind. Our family dynamics weren't perfect, but they were ours. Our mother, Eleanor, always maintained strict control over appearances. She orchestrated our family like a symphony conductor, ensuring every note played perfectly for the outside world. Nothing mattered more than how things looked to others. Our father James existed in her shadow, a kind but passive man who avoided conflict at all costs. He would retreat to his workshop in the garage whenever voices raised in the house, tinkering with wood projects until the storm passed. Despite these complexities, Abigail and I created our own world within this carefully maintained family image. We promised each other that we would always be honest, always have each other's backs, and always be in each other's lives no matter what. The shift happened so gradually that I almost missed it. Abigail met Harrison Reynolds during her final year of college. He came from old money, with family connections stretching back to Boston's earliest days. His family owned property throughout New England, and his father ran an investment firm that catered exclusively to clients with 8-figure portfolios. From the beginning, Harrison had a polished charm that impressed our mother immediately. At first, I was happy for Abigail. She seemed genuinely smitten, and Harrison treated her well. But small changes began appearing in my sister. The Abigail who once proudly wore thrift store finds started wearing only designer labels. Her naturally curly hair became permanently straightened. Her opinions, once strong and independent, began mysteriously aligning with Harrison's on everything from politics to pizza toppings. Meanwhile, I had built my life around my passion for wildlife photography. After college, I took an entry-level position with a nature magazine that allowed me to travel to national parks and occasionally overseas for shoots. My apartment was small but filled with prints of my favorite captures, plants on every surface, and furniture that told stories of flea market adventures. I lived modestly but loved my freedom and the authenticity of my work. I noticed Harrison's subtle disapproval of my lifestyle during family gatherings. He would ask questions about my hobby with that particular tone that suggested he was being polite about something he found quaint but impractical. "And this actually pays the bills?" he once asked while examining one of my published photos, his eyebrows slightly raised. When Abigail called to announce her engagement, I pushed aside my reservations and felt genuine excitement for my sister. The diamond on her finger was enormous, catching light from every angle when she showed it off during our family dinner celebration. "You'll be my maid of honor, of course," she said that night, hugging me tightly. I remembered feeling a surge of relief that despite the changes in her, our bond remained unbroken. The early days of wedding planning seemed normal. Abigail created Pinterest boards and shared them with me. We texted about color schemes and flower arrangements. I started setting aside money from each paycheck for my maid of honor responsibilities, knowing I would need to host a bridal shower and bachelorette party. The first red flag appeared when I called to ask about joining her for venue visits. "Oh, we already booked it," she said casually. Harrison's mother knew exactly the right place. When I asked about dress shopping, she told me they had scheduled it for a weekend I was away on assignment. Mom and Harrison's sisters are coming with me instead. You understand, right? Each time I tried to participate in wedding planning, there seemed to be a reason why my involvement wasn't necessary. Abigail became increasingly difficult to reach, always too busy with wedding stuff to talk for more than a few minutes. Our previously daily texts dwindled to occasional responses from her, usually hours or days later. Still, I made excuses for her behavior. Planning a wedding was stressful. Harrison's family was obviously very involved. My travel schedule did make consistent participation challenging. I told myself that once the wedding date approached, I would take time off work and throw myself into helping my sister in whatever way she needed. What I couldn't have known then was that I wouldn't get the chance. The wedding plans were proceeding without me, and my role was being systematically erased from the most important day in my sister's life. 6 months before the wedding date, our mother organized a family dinner. The circular oak table in our parents' dining room held the same china plates and crystal glasses that appeared for every special occasion. Mother had prepared her signature roast chicken with rosemary potatoes, the meal she considered appropriate for important announcements. We finalized most of the wedding details. Mother announced, serving herself a small portion of green beans. The Carlisle Hotel ballroom will look absolutely stunning. The Reynolds have connections with the management, of course. I nodded, taking a sip of water. When do we schedule fittings for the bridesmaids' dresses? I need to request time off work well in advance. A strange silence fell over the table. My father suddenly became very interested in cutting his chicken into perfectly even pieces. Harrison cleared his throat and reached for his wine glass. Abigail stared at her plate. Mother spoke in that artificially light tone she used when navigating uncomfortable topics. "Well, it's going to be just a small ceremony, really. Intimate. With the venue restrictions and all." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "What do you mean, small? How small?" "Just immediate family and close friends," Abigail finally said, still not meeting my eyes. "The venue has capacity limitations." "But I am immediate family," I said, feeling dizzy with confusion. "I'm your sister," Harrison interjected smoothly. "What Abigail means is that we've had to make some difficult decisions about the guest list. The Carlisle ballroom is exclusive, but somewhat limited in space." I looked directly at my sister. "Abigail, am I not in your wedding?" Her cheeks flushed pink. "It's not that I don't want you there, Audrey. It's just complicated. We had to consider so many factors." After dinner, I cornered Abigail in the kitchen as she helped Mother with dishes. "Can we talk about this? I don't understand what's happening." Abigail sighed, setting down a serving platter. "The wedding has taken a certain direction. Harrison's family has expectations about how everything should be. The guest list got political." "Political? I'm your sister. Not a distant cousin you haven't seen in years. You know what I mean. There are certain appearances to maintain. Harrison's family is very traditional. And I'm not traditional enough?" The realization felt like ice water in my veins. Is that what this is about? Abigail wouldn't quite look at me. "You have to understand the pressure I'm under. The Reynolds family has a certain image to uphold." Over the following weeks, I discovered the full extent of my exclusion. Through conversations with relatives and social media posts I wasn't blocked from seeing, I learned that all our cousins had been invited. Even Patrick, whom we'd seen maybe 3 times in the past decade. Aunt Judith, who once got drunk at Christmas and told Mother her turkey was drier than the Sahara, had received her invitation 2 months ago. The final blow came when I saw Instagram photos of Abigail at her bridal shower, surrounded by 4 bridesmaids, none of whom I recognized. They were Harrison's sister Catherine and 3 of Abigail's new friends from the country club where Harrison's family held membership. These women with their perfect blowouts and pastel dresses had taken my place at my sister's side. When I confronted our mother, her dismissal cut deeper than Abigail's avoidance. "You're always traveling anyway, Audrey. You can barely commit to Sunday dinners, let alone wedding responsibilities." She adjusted a flower arrangement on the counter, not meeting my eyes. "Besides, you and Abigail have grown apart. People change." I pressed further, demanding the real reason. Mother finally snapped, her composure cracking momentarily. "Harrison's family thinks you're too unconventional, all right? They were concerned about how you might fit with the wedding aesthetic. Abigail needs to make a good impression on her new family. So I'm an embarrassment? Is that what you're saying? Don't be dramatic." Nobody said that. Mother's tone shifted to the placating one she used when trying to smooth over uncomfortable truths. "It's just one day, Audrey. Don't make this about you." I tried talking to my father, catching him alone in his workshop. The familiar smell of sawdust and varnish usually brought comfort, but that day it couldn't ease the knot in my stomach. "Dad, did you know about this? That I'm being excluded from Abigail's wedding?" He ran his hand over a half-finished cabinet door, not meeting my eyes. "Your mother and Abigail make these decisions, honey. I try not to get involved in wedding details." "This isn't about centerpieces, Dad. This is about me being cut out of my own sister's wedding. Don't you think that's wrong?" He sighed heavily, finally looking up. "Sometimes families are complicated, Audrey. Sometimes we make compromises to keep the peace. Even when those compromises hurt someone you love." He had no answer for that, just returned to sanding the cabinet door, the repetitive motion seemingly calming to him. In his silence, I found my answer. No one in my family was willing to stand up for me, to acknowledge the wrongness of what was happening. As the wedding date approached, I waited for an invitation that never arrived. Instead, I received a text message from Abigail. "I know you're probably upset about the wedding. I hope you understand that this isn't personal. Harrison and I agreed we wanted a certain atmosphere, and honestly, Audrey, you wouldn't fit in with the elegant affair we've planned. You'd feel uncomfortable anyway. I hope we can move past this once it's over." The message sent me spiraling into a depression that lasted weeks. I called in sick to work, spent days in my pajamas, and ignored calls from friends. The sister who once defended me against playground bullies now saw me as an embarrassment, someone who didn't fit her new polished life. One evening, while scrolling mindlessly through social media, I discovered Abigail had created a wedding hashtag Royal Reynolds Wedding. Through this digital window, I watched as all the planning I should have been part of unfolded without me. There were videos of cake tastings, photos of floral arrangements, snapshots of place settings, and party favors. The final straw came when I saw photos of the venue. The Carlisle Hotel ballroom had been my dream wedding location since we were teenagers. Abigail and I had once snuck into a wedding there, hiding behind potted plants to watch the elegant couples swirling across the marble floor beneath crystal chandeliers. I had confided in her countless times that if I ever got married, that's where I would want it to be. She had taken my dream venue for her own wedding, then decided I wasn't good enough to attend. That night, I cried until there were no tears left, clutching an old photo of Abigail and me from high school graduation. In the picture, her arm was thrown around my shoulders, both of us beaming at the camera, unaware of how much would change between us. I wondered what had happened to that girl who once promised we would always be in each other's lives, no matter what. 3 weeks before the wedding, I sat alone in my apartment, scrolling through my sister's wedding updates on Instagram. Each perfectly filtered image felt like salt in an open wound. Abigail trying on her veil, Mother beaming beside her, Harrison's sisters arranging gift bags for hotel guests, A life I should have been part of continued without me, documented in painful detail for all to see. My phone pinged with an email notification. Flash sale. Flights to Reykjavik, Iceland 70% OFF. Read the subject line. I opened it absently. My thoughts still tangled in wedding tool and family betrayal. Iceland, the land of fire and ice. A place I'd longed to photograph since starting my career. The rugged landscapes, northern lights, and volcanic terrain had been on my professional bucket list for years. I scrolled through the email, noting that the travel dates coincided exactly with Abigail's wedding weekend. A wild thought entered my mind. What if, instead of sitting home alone during the wedding, feeling sorry for myself, I went to Iceland? What if I chose adventure over abandonment? The idea took root, growing stronger with each passing minute. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. The money I'd saved for bridesmaid responsibilities remained untouched. It was more than enough for a modest Iceland trip. My finger hovered over the book now button for only a moment before clicking decisively. Confirmation emails flooded my inbox. Flight to Reykjavik. Reservation at a well-reviewed hostel. Car rental for exploring. With each booking, a weight lifted from my chest. For the first time since the family dinner where I learned of my exclusion, I felt a spark of excitement. Over the next few days, I threw myself into trip planning. I researched photography locations, plotting routes to waterfalls, geysers, black sand beaches, and glaciers. I created a detailed itinerary that would keep me busy from dawn until dusk each day, leaving no time to dwell on what was happening back home. I told no one in my family about my plans. Let them assume I would be sitting at home, nursing my wounds while they celebrated without me. This trip would be my secret, my personal rebellion against their rejection. Shopping for the trip became therapeutic. I purchased new camera lenses, weatherproof boots, thermal layers, and a bright red winter coat that would stand out dramatically against Iceland's stark landscapes. Each item represented my choice to prioritize my own happiness after being deemed unworthy of inclusion in my sisters. As the wedding date grew closer, my excitement about Iceland expanded to fill the space where hurt had resided. I found myself smiling at travel blogs, joining Iceland photography forums, and making lists of must-see locations. The trip planning became a healing ritual, each detail a stitch closing the wound of exclusion. 1 week before departure, the family interactions I'd been avoiding suddenly intensified. Mother called to ask if I could help assemble wedding favors. Just because you're not in the ceremony doesn't mean you can't contribute, she said, as if offering me a generous concession. I'm busy that day, I replied vaguely, not mentioning that day was actually the entire week before their wedding. Audrey, don't be difficult. Family supports each other, even when things don't go exactly as we want. The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. I'm sorry, I have prior commitments. You'll have to find someone else to tie ribbons. Abigail texted next, asking if I would drop off her something borrowed at the hotel the morning of the wedding. I responded with a simple "can't, sorry," which prompted a flurry of messages about my attitude and selfishness. I silenced notifications from her, returning to my packing with renewed determination. The night before my departure, as I was zipping up my suitcase, my phone rang with Abigail's ringtone. I almost didn't answer, but some lingering sense of sisterly obligation made me pick up. Audrey? Thank God you answered. Her voice sounded frantic. We have an emergency. The wedding photographer just canceled. Something about a family emergency. We need someone to step in. I sat on the edge of my bed, stunned by the audacity. You want me to photograph your wedding? The wedding I'm not invited to attend. I know it's awkward, but you're so talented with a camera. We'd pay you a regular rate. Of course. For a moment, I hesitated. Despite everything, part of me still wanted to help my sister. But then I remembered the text message where she'd said I wouldn't fit in with her elegant affair. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I have plans. What plans could possibly be more important than your sister's wedding? The entitled tone in her voice confirmed I was making the right decision. My plans are my business, Abigail. Just like your wedding is yours. Good luck finding a photographer. I hung up feeling both guilty and liberated. The next morning, as dawn broke over the city, I wheeled my suitcase out the door and hailed a taxi to the airport. As the plane lifted off American soil, I felt the weight of expectations and hurt lifting too. For the next week, I would be unreachable, unavailable, and finally free to focus on my own joy instead of my family's rejection. The plane descended through clouds, revealing Iceland's otherworldly landscape below. Rugged lava fields stretched to the horizon, steam rising from geothermal vents scattered across the moss-covered terrain. My forehead pressed against the cold window. I felt a smile spread across my face. This was exactly where I needed to be. Keflavik Airport buzzed with travelers speaking a dozen different languages. I collected my rental car keys and loaded my luggage, plugging the hostel address into GPS. The drive to Reykjavik took me past vast expanses of volcanic rock and distant mountains. The landscape so alien it could have been another planet entirely. The Rainbow Hostel lived up to its name, with a brightly colored facade standing out among Reykjavik's more subdued buildings. Inside, the common area hummed with backpackers sharing travel stories over steaming mugs of coffee. I checked in and found my 4-person dorm room, claiming a bottom bunk near the window. "First time in Iceland?" asked a voice from the opposite bunk. A woman about my age with a Scottish accent and bright orange hair extended her hand. "I'm Fiona. Third visit for me. This country gets under your skin." Audrey. And yes, first time. Any recommendations? This simple question launched a lively group discussion as other travelers filtered into the common room. By evening, I had a notebook full of insider tips, invitations to join various day trips, and the warm feeling of connection with fellow adventurers who asked nothing of me except my company and conversation. That first night, I slept more soundly than I had in months, lulled by the distant sound of Reykjavik nightlife and the knowledge that thousands of miles separated me from the family drama I'd left behind. I awoke early the next morning, eager to begin exploring. My first destination was Gullfoss Waterfall, about 2 hours from Reykjavik. Driving through the changing landscape, I felt tensions I'd carried for months beginning to dissolve. Here, no one knew me as the excluded sister or the family embarrassment. I was just another photographer chasing beautiful images. Gullfoss did not disappoint. The massive waterfall cascaded in 2 dramatic drops, sending mist high into the air where rainbows formed in the morning sunlight. I spent hours photographing it from every angle, completely absorbed in capturing the raw power and beauty before me. For those hours, I didn't think once about wedding dresses or family betrayal. Back at the hostel that evening, I uploaded some of my favorite shots to Instagram without thinking. It wasn't until I saw the notifications start rolling and that I remembered my family would see these posts. Good, I thought. Let them see I'm thriving without them. Sure enough. Within minutes, my phone began buzzing with messages. "Mother first. Where are you? We need to discuss the rehearsal dinner seating." Then Abigail. "Are you seriously on vacation right now? We need your help with wedding details." I silenced notifications again, returning to the pleasant conversation with my new hostel friends. Day 2 brought me to the Blue Lagoon, where I floated in milky blue geothermal waters, steam rising around me in the cool air. The silica mud mask dried on my face as I gazed up at passing clouds, feeling more peaceful than I had in months. I dunked under the warm water, washing away the mask along with the last vestiges of anger I'd been carrying. What remained wasn't rage, but a calm certainty that I deserved better treatment than my family had offered. That evening, the texts and calls intensified. "Father now, your mother is worried. Please call home." And another from Abigail. "The backup photographer is charging triple the normal rate. Can you at least help us find someone affordable?" I turned my phone off completely. Tomorrow was the wedding day, and I had a glacier hike scheduled. Nothing would distract me from that experience. Dawn broke clear and cold on my sister's wedding day. While Abigail was likely waking to mimosas with her bridesmaids, I was lacing up hiking boots and checking my camera equipment. Our tour guide, Magnus, greeted our small group with a broad smile beneath a woolen hat. "Today we walk on ancient ice," he announced in accented English. "The glacier has stories to tell for those who listen." Magnus was tall with shoulder-length blonde hair and eyes the exact color of glacier ice. Throughout the hike, he shared Icelandic folklore about the landscape, pointing out features most tourists would miss. His knowledge and evident love for his homeland made the experience even more magical. As we cramponed across the glacier's surface, I imagined the wedding preparations happening across the ocean. By my calculations, the ceremony would begin in about 3 hours. I briefly wondered if anyone would notice my absence or if they'd all pretend I'd never existed in the first place. When we reached a particularly stunning ice cave, I turned my phone on to use its flashlight for photography. Immediately, it exploded with notifications. 27 missed calls, 42 text messages, 3 voicemails. I couldn't help myself. I listened to the first voicemail, Abigail's voice frantic. "Audrey, the replacement photographer didn't show up. The wedding starts in 2 hours, and we have no one to document it. Please tell me you're still in town and can help. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you." The second voicemail revealed more problems. The florist delivered all white flowers instead of the blush and cream arrangement we ordered. Mom's having a meltdown. Harrison's mother is blaming everyone. Please call back if you know the name of that flower shop you recommended months ago. The one you said could handle emergency orders. I silenced my phone again, focusing instead on capturing the ethereal blue light filtering through the ice cave. Magnus noticed my distraction. "Bad news from home?" he asked quietly while the rest of the group explored deeper into the cave. "Family drama. My sister's getting married today, actually." His eyebrows rose. "And you are here instead?" There must be quite a story there. Something about his kind eyes and the surreal blue light made me want to share. I gave him the abbreviated version as we walked, the exclusion, the hurt, my impulsive decision to come to Iceland instead. Magnus listened without judgment. When I finished, he nodded slowly. "In Iceland, we have a saying, better to go barefoot than without stories." "You are collecting your own stories now, yes? This is good." He gestured to the glacier surrounding us. "Some bridges, once broken, cannot be fixed, but new paths can always be found." His words stayed with me throughout the day. As our group bonded over the shared adventure, I found myself joining them for dinner at a local restaurant that evening. We exchanged emails and social media information, promising to share photos. These strangers had shown me more genuine warmth in 2 days than my family had in months. Back at the hostel, curiosity finally got the better of me. I turned on my phone to find even more desperate messages. According to Abigail's increasingly panicked texts, the wedding had descended into chaos. The venue had electrical problems, causing half the ballroom to lose power during the ceremony. The cake had arrived with the wrong flavor filling. The band had set up in the wrong location. Then came the most surprising message of all, from my father. "Audrey, we made a mistake excluding you. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Your sister needs you. We all do. Please call if you get this." It was the first time he had ever directly acknowledged that they had been wrong. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part felt sad that it took a wedding disaster for them to recognize my value. That night, while my sister's reception was falling apart, I joined a Northern Lights tour. Our guide drove us far from the city lights to a remote field where we waited in the darkness. When the lights finally appeared, dancing green and purple across the vast sky, tears filled my eyes. The beauty was overwhelming, making human dramas seem small by comparison. I took hundreds of photos, but my favorite wasn't of the lights themselves. It was one Magnus took of me, head tilted back, camera forgotten in my hands, face illuminated by the celestial display above. In that image, I looked truly happy, truly free. Meanwhile, social media updates from wedding guests told the story of a reception in disarray. Photos showed clearly stressed wedding party members, forced smiles, and evidence of the venue problems. One candid shot captured Abigail in tears at the head table while Harrison argued with a staff member in the background. As our Northern Lights tour ended, my phone rang again. It was after midnight in Reykjavik, meaning it was early evening at the wedding. Abigail again. The reception venue is flooding. A pipe burst in the bathroom and water is everywhere. The staff can't stop it. Half the guests have left already. No one's documenting anything properly. Harrison's mother is saying this is an omen about our marriage. Her voice broke. Where are you? Audrey? We need you. I stood under the Icelandic stars, thousands of miles from the chaos, and realized a profound truth. They hadn't just excluded me as a sister and guest. They'd excluded my professional expertise, my problem-solving abilities, my calm under pressure. All qualities that would have prevented many of these disasters. I'm in Iceland, Abigail. I've been here since yesterday. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. My last full day in Iceland dawned bright and clear. I'd planned to visit the black sand beaches of Vik, about 2.5 hours from Reykjavik. The drive along the southern coast offered stunning views of mountains, waterfalls, and the distant Westman Islands. The beach itself was otherworldly, stretching endlessly with sand the color of coal. Basalt columns rose from the shoreline, like the pipes of some enormous organ. Massive waves crashed against them, sending spray high into the air. I spent hours photographing the landscape, feeling completely at peace with my decision to prioritize this experience over family obligation. That evening, back at the hostel, I was sorting through the day's images when my phone rang. Abigail again. It was nearly midnight in Iceland, meaning late afternoon the day after the wedding back home. I almost didn't answer, but something told me this conversation needed to happen. Hello, Audrey. My sister's voice sounded hoarse, as if she'd been crying for hours. You're really in Iceland? You left the country rather than be here for my wedding. Yes, I left. Since I wasn't welcome at your wedding, I decided to do something for myself instead. How could you do this to me? Everything went wrong. Everything. The accusation in her voice sparked a flash of anger in me. I didn't do anything to you, Abigail. You and Harrison and Mother decided I wasn't good enough to be included in your perfect day. You can't exclude me and then blame me when things don't go as planned. A long silence followed, broken only by the sound of her uneven breathing. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. Harrison didn't want you there. He said you were too real, too authentic. He thought you wouldn't fit with the image his family wanted to project. The confession hung between us, finally spoken aloud. And you chose that over your own sister? I thought I had to. I thought his family's approval was everything. She sobbed openly now. I was so wrong, Audrey. So wrong. The whole day was a nightmare. Nothing went right. And all I kept thinking was that you would have known how to fix everything. I heard rustling, then Mother's voice came on the line. Audrey? Where on earth are you? How could you abandon your family like this? The familiar accusatory tone ignited something in me. Years of being sidelined, undervalued, and now excluded had built a reservoir of words I needed to say. For once, I would say them without apology. I didn't abandon anyone, Mother. I was excluded. Deliberately cut out of my own sister's wedding because I wasn't polished enough for her new family. You all made that choice, not me. That's not fair, Audrey. We were trying to respect the wishes of Harrison's family. Sometimes in life we make compromises. The only person being asked to compromise was me. Always me. When Abigail wanted my bedroom after I left for college, I compromised. When you scheduled family photos during my photography exhibition, I compromised. When Dad missed my college graduation for Abigail's tennis tournament, I compromised. My voice remained steady, though my hands shook. This time, I chose myself. I chose not to sit at home feeling worthless while you all celebrated without me. You're being overdramatic as usual, Mother sniffed. No, I'm being honest. There's a difference. You can't exclude me and then demand my help when things go wrong. That's not how relationships work. I heard a commotion on the other end, then a male voice came on the line. Harrison, listen here. Audrey, your little disappearing act ruined what should have been the most important day of our lives. Your sister is devastated. Is that what you wanted? His condescending tone crystallized exactly why I needed this trip. What I wanted was to be treated with basic respect and inclusion by my own family. What I wanted was for my sister to stand up for me instead of choosing status over our relationship. What I wanted doesn't matter to any of you, which is why I'm currently watching the midnight sun in Iceland instead of helping you manage your wedding disasters. You selfish, attention-seeking. Abigail's voice cut through, apparently having grabbed the phone back. Stop it, Harrison. Don't talk to my sister that way. My breath caught. It was the first time Abigail had defended me against him. What followed was the sound of an argument erupting, with multiple voices talking over each other. I held the phone away from my ear, listening to the chaos unfold from the serene distance of my Icelandic hostel. When the commotion subsided, Abigail returned to the phone. I'm sorry, Audrey. For everything. For not standing up for you. For letting Harrison and his family dictate who should be at my wedding. For forgetting what really matters. The apology felt genuine, but I wasn't ready to simply forgive and move on. Years of pattern couldn't be erased with one apology given in the aftermath of disaster. I appreciate that, Abigail. I really do. But I need you to understand something. I didn't go to Iceland to punish you or ruin your wedding. I went because I needed to remember my own worth after being treated like I didn't matter. I found my own happiness while you chose appearances over authenticity. That's a lesson I won't forget. What happens now? She asked, her voice small. Now I finish my trip. I fly home in 2 days. After that, we'll see. Relationships can be rebuilt, but only on foundations of mutual respect. I deserve that much. I ended the call feeling lighter, as if I'd set down a heavy backpack I'd been carrying for years. For the first time, I'd stood my ground without anger or bitterness, simply stating my truth and my boundaries. That evening, I joined a group dinner at a local restaurant with hostel friends, including Magnus, who had the night off from tour guiding. Under the still bright midnight sky, we shared stories and laughed until my sides hurt. When Magnus asked if I'd like to join his hiking group for an extended tour the following week, I found myself saying yes without hesitation. One more week in this magical place felt like exactly what my soul needed. Won't your family miss you? He asked as we walked back to the hostel. They've only just started to realize I was missing in the first place, I replied. Another week won't hurt. Besides, I've waited years to photograph these landscapes. Magnus smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Then Iceland welcomes you for as long as you wish to stay. Later that night, I scrolled through the wedding photos being posted by guests. Formal portraits showed strained smiles and stiff poses. Candid reception shots revealed arguments in the background, stressed staff, and eventually, the water damage from the flooding. It was clearly not the perfect day they had envisioned. In contrast, my own social media showed genuine joy, breathtaking landscapes, and new friendships. I hadn't staged my happiness for appearances. I had actually found it in the most unexpected place and time. As I drifted off to sleep, I realized that being excluded had ultimately given me a gift. It had forced me to choose myself when no one else would. Sometimes, rejection points us toward the path we actually need to take. 2 weeks later, I unlocked the door to my apartment, wheeling my suitcase behind me. The familiar space felt different somehow, as if it had shrunk during my absence. Or perhaps I had expanded, grown larger than the life I'd been living before Iceland. A stack of mail waited on my kitchen counter, courtesy of my neighbor who had collected it while I was away. Mixed in with bills and magazines were 3 envelopes that caught my attention. One from Mother, one from Father, and one from Abigail. I set them aside, unpacking my suitcase first. My camera memory cards were full of Icelandic wonders. Photos I couldn't wait to process and print. The extended week had allowed me to capture the midnight sun, additional waterfalls, and remote landscapes few tourists ever saw. Magnus had proven to be not just a knowledgeable guide, but also a kindred spirit who understood my need for both adventure and quietude. Finally, with a cup of tea in hand, I sat down to open the letters. Mother's contained a silver photo frame with a family picture from years ago, all of us smiling on a beach vacation before Abigail met Harrison. A note on expensive stationery read, "Things got out of hand. Let's put this unfortunate episode behind us and move forward as a family." No apology. Just an expectation that I would fall back in line, grateful for readmission to the family circle. Father's envelope held a handwritten letter on lined paper torn from a notebook. Unlike Mother's polished message, his words meandered across the page in uneven lines. I should have spoken up. I let you down by staying silent when I knew it wasn't right to exclude you. I've always been proud of your independence, even when I didn't understand your choices. Please forgive an old man's cowardice. His honesty touched me, a genuine acknowledgement of his role in what had happened. Abigail's package was the largest. Inside was a hand-knitted scarf in vibrant blues and greens, reminiscent of the Icelandic landscapes I'd shared in my photos. The note read, "I saw this and thought of your Iceland adventures. Things with Harrison are strained. He showed his true colors when everything went wrong, blaming everyone but himself. I keep thinking about what you said about authenticity versus appearances. Can we talk when you're ready? No pressure. Just missing my sister." I placed all 3 notes on my coffee table, studying them like artifacts from a past life. Something fundamental had shifted during my time away. The approval and inclusion I had desperately craved before no longer seemed essential to my happiness. I had found something stronger in Iceland, a certainty about my own worth that existed independent of family validation. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in processing my Iceland photos. The images were among the best work I'd ever produced, capturing not just the dramatic landscapes, but the feeling of liberation they had inspired. On impulse, I sent a portfolio to National Geographic, not expecting anything but feeling the work deserved to be seen. 2 weeks after my return, Mother called. "We're having Sunday dinner this weekend. Your father and I expect you to be there. It's time to put all this wedding nonsense behind us." The commanding tone that once would have guaranteed my compliance now washed over me without effect. "I have plans this Sunday, actually. I'm meeting with a gallery owner about featuring my Iceland series. Surely you can reschedule that." Family comes first, Audrey. My career matters too, Mother. And the gallery owner is flying in specifically to meet with me. This wasn't strictly true, but the boundary felt important to establish. Maybe next weekend. Her frustrated sigh suggested she wasn't accustomed to this new version of me, the one who didn't automatically sacrifice her needs for family expectations. The gallery meeting was a success. The owner, impressed by my Iceland portfolio, offered me a solo exhibition. As I was leaving, my phone buzzed with a text from Abigail. "Just heard about your gallery show from Mom." "That's amazing. Sis, can I come to the opening?" I paused before responding. The old me would have immediately said yes, eager for any sign of family interest in my work. The new me considered more carefully. Still finalizing details, but yes, you're welcome to attend. It would mean a lot. Her reply came quickly, "Thank you." "And Audrey? No Harrison. Promise. This would just be about supporting you." Something warm unfurled in my chest at her words. A small step, but in the right direction. In the weeks that followed, family dynamics continued to shift and realign. Mother made several attempts to resume our previous relationship without acknowledging her role in hurting me. Each time, I gently but firmly maintained my new boundaries, refusing to pretend everything was normal without proper acknowledgement and change. Father made more genuine efforts, calling to ask specifically about my photography and listening attentively to my responses. He even visited my apartment for the first time in years, examining my prints with real interest and asking thoughtful questions about technique. Most surprising was the evolution of my relationship with Abigail. She reached out consistently but never pressingly, respecting my pace. Through carefully neutral conversations, I learned that her marriage was already showing serious strain. Harrison's true nature had fully emerged after the wedding disaster, blaming Abigail for everything from the venue problems to his mother's disappointment. He keeps saying if I'd chosen a different photographer from the beginning, none of it would have happened, she confided during a coffee meeting 3 weeks after my return. As if the burst pipe was somehow related to camera choice. That's not how relationships are supposed to work, Abby. Partners support each other through difficulties, not assign blame. She twisted her wedding ring, a gesture I'd noticed had become habitual. I know. I keep thinking about what you said in Iceland, about choosing appearances over authenticity. That's exactly what I did. With the wedding. With Harrison. With everything. I reached across the table to cover her hand with mine. The first physical contact we'd had since before the wedding drama. It's never too late to make different choices. Her eyes, so similar to mine, filled with tears. I miss who I was before all this. I miss us. I miss us too. It wasn't instant forgiveness or an immediate return to our former closeness, but it was a beginning. A recognition that what we'd lost might be worth rebuilding. Differently, but perhaps stronger than before. The gallery opening arrived on a crisp autumn evening 6 weeks after my return from Iceland. My photographs, large format prints capturing the raw beauty of Icelandic landscapes, lined the walls of the small but well-respected gallery. Each image told part of my journey, not just across a foreign country, but towards self-respect and personal truth. To my surprise, my entire family attended. Mother wore her gallery-appropriate pearls, but seemed genuinely impressed by the turnout and positive reception to my work. Father beamed with undisguised pride, telling anyone who would listen that I was his daughter. Abigail came alone, having left her wedding ring at home, a detail I noticed but didn't comment on. As the evening wound down, Abigail approached me by a particularly striking image of the northern lights reflecting on still water. These are incredible, Audrey. You've always had this gift for capturing not just what things look like, but how they feel. Thank you. Iceland gave me exactly what I needed. She nodded, studying the photograph. Can I tell you something? I've always envied you. Me? Why would you envy me when you had everything? The perfect boyfriend, mother's approval, the dream wedding. I couldn't keep the surprise from my voice. I had the appearance of everything. You had the reality of freedom. The courage to live authentically. She turned to face me directly. Even when we were kids, you knew exactly who you were. I always felt like I was trying to figure out what version of myself would get the most approval. The honesty in her admission touched me deeply. It wasn't always easy being the family rebel. No, but it was real. Everything about my life has felt like a performance. Even my marriage. She glanced down at her bare ring finger. Especially my marriage. We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of her words settling between us. I'd like us to try again, Audrey. Not to go back to how things were, but to build something better. Something real. Her voice wavered slightly. On your terms. Whatever boundaries you need. It wasn't an instant fix for years of family dynamics, but it was a genuine beginning. I'd like that too. As the gallery emptied, Mother approached, examining the price list with raised eyebrows. These are selling quite well, aren't they? Perhaps there's more to this photography business than I realized. Coming from her, this constituted high praise. I smiled, accepting the partial acknowledgement for what it was. Thanks, Mother. I'm glad you could see the exhibition. Your father and I were thinking we might host a family dinner next Sunday. Nothing formal, just the four of us. Her tone was carefully casual, but I recognized the effort it took for her to extend this olive branch on more equal terms. I'll check my calendar and let you know, I replied, maintaining my new boundary of not automatically rearranging my life for family expectations. She nodded, accepting this response without the pushback she would have given the pre-Iceland me. Small steps, but significant ones. That night, after everyone had left, I stood alone in the gallery surrounded by images of the journey that had changed everything. The irony wasn't lost on me that being excluded from my sister's wedding had ultimately led to the strongest exhibition of my career, a new potential relationship, and the beginning of healthier family dynamics. Sometimes being kept out is actually being redirected exactly where you need to go. 6 months after my Iceland adventure, life had taken unexpected turns for all of us. My photography career flourished following the gallery exhibition. National Geographic had responded to my portfolio submission with interest, commissioning me to write an article accompanying my Iceland photographs for their travel section. The feature, titled "Finding Beauty in Isolation," resonated with readers and led to additional assignments and speaking opportunities at photography conferences. Abigail had separated from Harrison 3 months after the wedding. The final breaking point came during a dinner with his parents, where he publicly berated her for ordering the wrong wine with her meal. Something in my sister, perhaps the same independent spirit we'd shared as children, finally reasserted itself. She placed her napkin on the table, stood up, and walked out of the restaurant and out of the marriage in one decisive move. She'd moved into a modest apartment across town and begun rediscovering the authentic self she'd suppressed during her relationship with Harrison. She'd returned to teaching elementary school art, a passion she'd abandoned when Harrison suggested it wasn't prestigious enough for his wife. The divorce proceedings were ongoing, but Abigail faced them with unexpected strength and clarity. Our relationship had been rebuilding slowly but steadily. Weekly coffee dates became a ritual where we relearned each other as adults. The bond we'd shared as children hadn't disappeared, but had evolved into something more honest, with clearer boundaries and greater respect for our differences. Mother's adjustment to the new family dynamic proved the most challenging. Her carefully constructed vision of family perfection had been shattered by both Abigail's failed marriage and my refusal to continue playing the role of accommodating daughter. She still occasionally slipped into old patterns of manipulation and control, but found them increasingly ineffective. "I don't understand why you can't join us for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day," she complained during a November phone call. "The Reynolds always did both. It's tradition." "I'll be there Christmas Day as we discussed," I replied calmly. "Christmas Eve, I'm photographing the City Light Festival. It's an important professional opportunity." The silence that followed suggested she was recalibrating to this new reality where her preferences didn't automatically override my professional commitments. "Well, I suppose we'll make do with just Christmas Day then." Progress came in these small moments of adjustment, these tiny recalibrations of expectation and response. Father had perhaps changed the most visibly. After decades of conflict avoidance, he began expressing his opinions more directly, sometimes even contradicting Mother in family discussions. He'd taken up woodworking again with renewed passion, creating beautiful custom frames for my photographs that now hung in galleries across the city. "I should have spoken up sooner," he told me during a walk through the park near my apartment. "About the wedding, yes, but about so many things before that too. Watching you stand your ground from Iceland taught this old dog a new trick." My relationship with Magnus had evolved as well. After several months of video calls and messages, He had visited for 2 weeks, staying in my guest room and exploring the city with the same enthusiasm he showed for Icelandic landscapes. The connection between us deepened into something that felt both exciting and comfortable, a slow-burning potential neither of us rushed to define. On a crisp fall evening, Abigail and I sat on my balcony, wrapped in blankets against the chill, sharing a bottle of wine as the sun set over the city's skyline. "I've been thinking about Iceland," she said, swirling the red wine in her glass. "Would you take me there someday? Show me what you experienced." The question touched me deeply. "I'd love that. It's a magical place. Perfect for new beginnings. That's what I need. A complete reset." She looked out at the darkening sky. "You know what still amazes me? That you had the courage to go there alone. To choose your own happiness when everyone was telling you to just accept being excluded." I considered this, remembering the mix of determination and fear I'd felt booking that impulsive flight. It wasn't courage exactly, more like self-preservation. I couldn't sit at home feeling worthless while everyone celebrated without me. But that's exactly what courage is sometimes. Choosing yourself when no one else will. She turned to face me directly. "I'm trying to learn that now. Better late than never, right?" Planning our sister's trip to Iceland became a healing ritual. We created shared online boards with destinations and activities, researched accommodations, and messaged Magnus for insider recommendations. The trip was scheduled for summer, when the midnight sun would illuminate our adventure 24 hours a day. Mother's reaction to our planned trip revealed how much had changed. Instead of criticism or attempts to redirect our plans towards something she considered more appropriate, she simply asked, "Will you take lots of pictures to show us when you return?" "Of course," I promised, recognizing this small acceptance as significant progress. One afternoon, while helping Abigail sort through the last of her belongings from the marital home, I found a photo album from the ill-fated wedding. The expensive leather-bound book contained only a handful of amateur photographs, most poorly composed and some out of focus entirely. "The wedding album that never was," Abigail said with a rueful smile, sitting beside me on the floor of her new apartment. "Harrison's cousin took these on his phone after everything fell apart. He claimed they were artistic." We flipped through the sparse images, laughing now at what had once been devastating. The tilted cake, the flooded reception floor, the forced smiles and visible tension. "You know what's weird?" Abigail said, closing the album. "At the time, I thought having the perfect wedding was everything. Now I can't believe I was willing to exclude my own sister for the sake of appearances." "What would you do differently if you could go back?" I asked, genuinely curious. She thought for a moment. "Everything. I'd have a small ceremony with only people who truly care about us. I'd wear a comfortable dress instead of that corseted monstrosity. I'd have you as my maid of honor." She smiled sadly. "Most importantly, I'd marry someone who actually loved me for who I am, not for who he wanted me to be." "That's a pretty good plan for next time." "Next time," she agreed, though not anytime soon. As months passed, I found myself reflecting often on how being excluded had ultimately redirected me toward a more authentic life. The pain of rejection had forced me to evaluate what truly mattered, to establish boundaries that should have existed long ago, and to discover strengths I might never have recognized otherwise. During a family dinner that actually felt comfortable for the first time in years, Abigail raised her glass in an impromptu toast. "To Audrey, who showed me that sometimes the best response to being excluded is to find somewhere better to be included." Mother, surprisingly, added her own sentiment. "And to learning that family means accepting each other as we are, not as we wish each other to be." The acknowledgement, though indirect, represented enormous growth on her part. Father simply said, "To Iceland," with a knowing smile in my direction. Later that evening, as I scrolled through new messages from Magnus about our upcoming plans for him to visit again, I reflected on the strange path that had led me here. If I hadn't been excluded from my sister's wedding, I might never have discovered Iceland or met Magnus. I might still be playing the accommodating daughter role, suppressing my own needs to maintain family harmony. I might never have established the healthy boundaries that had, ironically, improved all my family relationships. Sometimes exclusion is actually redirection. Sometimes not being invited to someone else's party forces you to create your own celebration. Sometimes the door that closes in your face is keeping you from a room you never really wanted to be in anyway. The true lesson wasn't about wedding invitations or family politics. It was about having the courage to write your own story rather than accepting a supporting role in someone else's. It was about recognizing that forgiveness doesn't require returning to old patterns, and that sometimes the healthiest love is the kind that comes with clear boundaries. Life continues to unfold in unexpected ways. My photography career grows stronger with each new project. Abigail rediscovers her authentic voice daily. Our parents adapt to their changing relationship with adult daughters. And Iceland waits, that land of fire and ice, ready to offer its magic to my sister as it once did for me. Have you ever been excluded from something important only to discover it led you somewhere better? Drop a comment below sharing your experience. I'd love to know if anyone else turned rejection into an unexpected adventure. And if you enjoyed this story of family redemption, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes being left out is the universe's way of redirecting you exactly where you need to be. Thank you for listening, and remember, the most beautiful journeys often begin with a door closing behind you.